Welcome back to the channel, guys. Now today I have an awesome video for anybody who's a beginner to Elden Ring, anybody who's having some struggles with some of these bosses. Now what I want to do today is actually start a brand new series where I get the chance to break down the combat and a few other lore items and some helpful tips and hints to help you become successful at beating any boss that you want to in this game. In this series I will break down different combat styles, different strategies, some of the movements, positioning, and things just like that, so that way you become an expert at destroying these bosses in Elden Ring. Before we get into it, I want to say thank you guys for all the recent support and subscribers to the channel. I also want to give a huge shout out to my editors, my marketing manager, a lot of things like that. It has been crazily helping us grow massively. So if you guys want to support and take part in that, feel free to go ahead and like this video, comment down below, also subscribe, ring notification button, and if you feel so inclined to, go ahead and click that join button to really show your support. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, before I get into too much of the details of combat, story, lore, and things like that, I kind of want to quickly talk about Margit the Fell Omen in this game. So Margit is a great enemy boss. She's also optional. Well, I kind of believe that she's a she, but I don't know. Anyway, so she or he is an optional boss. You actually don't have to fight him in order to advance throughout the game. However, if you do want to get to Stormville Castle, so that way you can end up fighting Godfrey, who our next video will be on, you do have to defeat Margit first. With that being said, so there's also going to be a non-boss variant that you're going to actually find later on in the game. It's going to be disguised as like a regular enemy. However, it's going to be a little bit weird. It's going to be one enemy out in the middle of nowhere. It'll be out in the outer wall battleground side of Grace, right near there. After you get close enough to it, then the enemy is going to eventually turn into Margit. And then from there, you're going to also have one last standoff with this creature, except in its true form as Margit. Now I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the lore of Margit. In order to understand Margit's combat style, we actually need to get a little bit into the lore. Now, Margit's appearance in Stormville is likely due to the fact that Godric is considered the weakest demigod and would likely be the first target of seeking those great runes. So Margit is basically there to protect and make sure that Godric and his great runes don't get taken. Two of the weapons that Margit uses, one is going to be a ghostly dagger that he can summon, which is an Earthsteel dagger, which you can pick up, but also he uses a giant crusher as his other weapon. That's his physical weapon that you see. I'm not sure if you guys noticed it, but he doesn't drop the giant crusher for you guys to use immediately. Instead, you have to wait till you progress in the game and get to Altus Plateau, which is closer by where his other form is. So I'm sure that's probably why he left it for safekeeping. With that being said, he also uses that straight sword for some different spinning combos, dagger throws, slash attacks, things like that as well. So kind of get into a little bit about setting up for this boss fight. So like I said, this is an optional boss. The closest site of Grace is going to be the Castle Ward Tunnel. With that being said, you can use multiplayer for this boss. You can use multiplayer for this boss and most other bosses. You can also summon Spirit Ashes for this boss, and Sorcerer Rajier is also there for you to be able to summon him if you guys want to use him. Moving straight into the combat info. In regular new game, his health is going to be 4,170-ish HP. He also has a defense of 103. His stance, which is the amount of attacks that he can take before he gets knocked or being able to get critted or anything like that, is going to be 80. So you're going to have to at least do a consistent 80 damage within that time frame before he actually gets stunned. With that being said, he's also parryable. However, his summons attacks are not able to be parried, but you can parry pretty much any of his straight sword or his giant crusher attacks. He also is vulnerable to a critical hit after being stance broken, but it takes 2 parries in order to stance break him. He's also pretty easy to stance break as well. After a good 6 or 7 strong hits or about 4 or 5 heavy attacks, his stand gets broken. So the damage that he does is actually that standard, some strike damage, pierce, and he also does holy damage, which that holy damage is from that summon's dagger. From killing him, he also drops 12,000 runes and a talisman pouch. However, he only drops those during the first new game. After that, the amount of runes that he drops scales and you won't get another talisman pouch. Now I want to talk a little bit about his negations or absorptions. Essentially, negations is the amount of damage that gets blocked when you use it. So if you have a negation of 60, 40% of that damage will go through and 60% will be negated, if that makes sense. So as far as his negations, he's only weak to one thing, and that's going to be slash damage. So that's going to be anything where you're using a dagger and you slash, or you decide to use katanas. Slash damage is actually going to do more. So since his negation for slash is -10, that means you're actually going to do more damage, 110% damage, if you use slash weapons. Additionally, because he is using holy damage, he's also more resistant to holy damage, meaning that if you decide to go in with a holy damage build or holy damage dealing weapon, then 40% of that damage will be negated. So likely don't use holy damage weapons or incantations or spells. Now when it comes to his resistances are just numbers of build up to in order to trigger or to make the resistance itself proc. So meaning that for him, his poison resistance is 316, his Scarlet Rot is the same, Hemorrhage is the same, and Frostbite is the same as well. As you go, so overall, Margit as an enemy, for combat wise, he's pretty easy if you have the right build set up. Like I said, you want to be able to work on parrying for him. A huge thing is using that slash damage. You don't want to use any kind of holy damage, but most importantly, make sure that you get some good stance breaks. Now I want to move into some of the strategies in order to defeat him. First, I want to talk about equipment. One of the best equipment items that you guys can use is Margit's Shackle, which traps Margit. It's something that you can get from patches, but you can only use it during phase 1. If you do have it, you go ahead and use it. It'll smack down into the ground and it'll lock him down, so that way you can be able to get a good bit of attacks on him. It's not going to hold him for long, so you really want to be able to get some good use out of it. As far as other equipment and things like that, pots and perfumes, go ahead and use that as you like. Just make sure you are not using anything that does holy damage. Moving forward, like I said, you are able to parry most of his staff attacks as long as it's not one of those summoning attacks. Now, before I really break down the attacks and counters, I want to talk about my 3 different tactics to use. So my 3 tactics are going to be roll, evade, and advantage. Roll is essentially where, because of an attack that he uses, you just want to simply roll in some direction. Evade is going to be where you just need to get away. Don't even try and roll. Don't try and do anything else. Get away or get to a different position. So evade is mostly repositioning. And the last thing is going to be advantage. So advantage is where you're going to be able to take some time to do certain things you need to do, whether that's get a hit or a couple hits in, or to be able to use a flask, things like that. If there's going to be a time where you have extended advantage time, those are the times where you're going to want to go ahead and summon certain things, maybe change around some of your items so that way you can get ready to throw a pot or things like that. But advantage is going to be where you get the chance to take that time to get some hits in, or like I said, go ahead and heal up. Now, when it comes to Margit, I'm not going to list all of his attacks here, but I do want to name some of the primary ones that you guys are going to come across and list off some of the counters in order to help you guys out. So his staff stab is when he directly stabs his staff forward. During an attack like that, you're going to want to roll. Now, you're going to want to roll to your left because you will feel tempted to roll to the right because he is using his right arm. When it comes to most attacks like this, you're gonna rather roll straight into the attack so that way you can get underneath it. If you do move towards his right side, he'll likely follow up with a counter attack or with another attack with his dagger or dagger slashes. Some kind of combo. Like I said, my strategy for this, you just want to roll towards his left. Next is going to have a wind-up attack, which this is when he pulls his staff all the way behind him and then he slams it to the ground if you're close. However, if you're further away, he'll rush forward and spin clockwise, slashing twice down in front of him. This wind-up is extremely long. So if you are close to him, this is where you want to use my tactic of advantage, because you can get a few hits in and then roll out of the way. If this is in phase 1, this will end that combo, but if it's in phase 2, he'll have other pieces to this combo. So just be very cautious once you get into phase 2, because if you use that advantage and get a few hits off, or if you use that advantage to go ahead and heal because you took damage in the prior combo, then you're going to want to make sure you roll out of the way. Don't evade, because likely he'll continue that combo onto you if you try just to get away. Next, we're going to talk about his dagger slash. His dagger slash is when he quickly slashes that spectral dagger right in front of him. Sometimes he does it twice. Often it'll happen when you're on his left side. So the best thing to do is not to roll. That is your chance to use my third tactic, which is evade. A great thing you want to do is try and get behind him, because his dagger is really close, so he can't really turn around his body just as quickly. Next, I want to talk about that dagger throw. So this is when he throws 1 or 2 daggers instead of just slashing once or twice. This is also usually when you're trying to heal. It's just kind of based on that input reading that most people have with the Godskin duo. It's similar to that, except it's much more forgiving. So when you see this, you don't want to take the advantage time. That is exactly when you're wrong, right? So if you do notice that you have time for an advantage, make sure you're looking out, because he will be getting ready to throw these daggers, especially if you're far from him. So when you see the dagger throws, you're gonna wanna just dodge left and then right, just to make sure you get out of the way. And that's when you'll use my roll tactic. Now from here, he's gonna get ready to do his phase 2 change, and I wanna talk about that briefly. So his phase 2 change happens once his health gets below 65%. He'll go ahead and summon in his spectral hammer to his shoulder. He'll swing it in front of him, leap in the air, he'll do a bunch of dancing, and then he'll slam it to the ground and create a huge shockwave. Make sure that you evade. Do not roll into it. Do not try and roll out of it. You need to actually get away while he's doing that entire process. It will actually be easy enough for him. Now, once you do see that he's starting to roll, come back down, you can go ahead and roll in and go ahead and get a few hits, or once again, heal up. So this is where you use my evade, then advantage tactic. Now, the hammer slam is going to be a simple roll tactic. It's when he raises his left leg, and then he'll smash his spectral hammer down in front of him while he's still in that second phase. Go ahead and roll into him. That's another one of those attacks where you can do that. Now, another evade attack that he's going to use is going to be the hammer strike. That's when he's going to summon that spectral hammer onto his shoulder, and then he's going to spin around, do a bunch of stuff, and then he's going to eventually hit with his staff and then his hammer. You need to just completely dodge away and prepare for even more combo attacks, because he's going to continue to attack. Don't roll into it, evade. Only the cane part or that staff part can actually be parried if you are trying to go for a parrying build. Last but not least, I want to talk about his weapon combo. So at this point, this is when he quickly switches between all of these different weapons, his staff, his sword, his hammer. He does a big combo attack, a bunch of different actions within it. What you need to do during this time is not try and dodge over or jump or any of these kind of things. You want to evade. And as soon as the combo is done, you want to go ahead and take that advantage. So once again, this is another one of those evade then advantage kind of tactics. Once again, you'll likely get hit during this if you're not really a skilled player. So as soon as you see that that combo is complete, then go ahead and use that advantage time to heal up. Alright guys, now here I want to give some of my opinions and my personal experiences with actually fighting Margit. So first, one of my biggest issues is that instead of rolling to his left side or rolling into most of his attacks, I try to roll away from his attacks to his opposite side. That's something that you're not going to want to do. If you're going to want to roll with him, you're going to want to roll under or into his attack, especially because a lot of his attacks are swinging. So if he's going to swing and you roll the way opposite of his attack, or the way that his attack is going, it's still likely going to clip you and hit you. However, if you roll under it, you're actually going to roll under his swing and under his arm. So most of those kind of swing or slash attacks, you're going to want to roll into him for. Something I have a lot of issues with is, like I said, rolling into the same direction, if that makes sense. With that being said, don't jump. This is not a boss that you want to jump. Never jump with Margit. Margit is the kind of boss, he has the kind of hitbox on you, like if you're an elephant trying to jump, right? So it doesn't matter how high you jump or at what point you jump, don't jump when it comes to Margit. This is a great time to really learn that roll tactic, especially because it's one of the very early game bosses. Now, one thing that grinds everybody's gear is his windup. He has crazy, unpredictable windups that you can never predict. With that being said, what you want to do is wait for it. Sometimes you might end up spam rolling, and if you spam roll during those windups, I'm going to tell you, you're going to likely end up getting caught at the end of your spam roll, because he's going to swipe down just as soon as you're out of stamina or right in between the point where you're rolling. He's going to hit you. So be patient, maybe get a hit, use that time as an advantage, and after you see that it's been about time, go ahead and roll into that attack. Don't evade. If you go backwards or if you go to the side or anything like that, it's going to hit you. Now, is distance a good idea for him? This might be a great idea for him if you are a mage or using spells or incantations, things like that. However, what you need to be careful of are those daggers. You need to be careful of the dagger throws, and also need to be careful of his heavy wind-up attack where he comes a lot forward. If you are using any kind of magic build or incantations or distance things like arrows and bows, when he switches to that phase 2, he's going to do a huge leap and jump at you. So at that point, you're going to want to make sure you roll under him, behind him. You do that, after that, you'll be able to actually get some good attacks on him, or it takes some time to flask up, heal up, prep, change different weapons to enemies and things like that. The last little piece of personal experience and opinion that I have about him would be Margit is, I think a huge part of him is teaching new players that not every boss fight has to end quickly. One thing I've noticed is that Margit is a long game kind of boss. He's the kind of boss where you have to be patient, learn some of his tactics, learn some of his techniques, get some time in the ring with him. You might have to trade a few blows, but be patient. It's a long game. Be patient. Really take that time to learn how to roll. Take that time to learn when you need to take advantage, when you need to evade. At times, maybe even practice pairing with him. But it's a long fight when it comes to Margit. He's not really that strong. He doesn't have that much HP, but it is a good time to really work on a lot of your little skills to help set you up for a lot of the later game bosses. Now, here's why I want to hear your input. What are some of the issues that you guys are having if you're a new player, or if you're an experienced player and new game plus, or all the way up to new game 10 or past? Are you having some issues with him? With that being said, do any of you guys have any tips or hints or anything to add for any beginners to whether it's Souls games or just to Elden Ring or even action RPGs? Also, I want to know if you guys have any preferred builds, styles, weapons, or anything like that that you guys use mostly to fight him. Do you guys have any kind of one-shot builds? You guys have any kind of great mage builds? You guys have any kind of sleeper pod or anything like that builds that are out of the ordinary? I would love to know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys got any kind of insight or help from this, make sure you put it down in the comments below. Leave a like, rating, and also subscribe with the notification bell for any notifications on any of the gaming content over here. With that being said, thank you guys so much. Check out this video where I get the chance to one-shot every boss in the game, even old Margit over here. You're not going to believe it. It's absolutely amazing. Click on this video and have a beautiful goddamn day. See you.